top winter safety risk. All right, we talked about a little bit about this already. Seasonal depression and isolation. It's dreary, it's snowy. If you're expecting bad weather and maybe they don't want to drive or they have given up driving, especially if there's inclement weather.
Welcome to Aging in Style with Lori Williams, the podcast all about finding the silver lining no matter what life throws your way. I'm Lori Williams, an award-winning senior living expert, author, educator, and caregiver to my husband, Mark. Join me as I share insights, tips, and personal stories to help you navigate the world of senior housing, discover ways to pay for care, advocate for your loved ones, and most importantly, learn how to thrive, not just survive, as you age.
Hi, welcome back to Aging in Style. Okay, you have been following, I hope, our 3-part series, and this is part 3, the final episode in this series that we're doing. I've been addressing key questions that people have for me during the holiday seasons, like during and after the holiday season, after they've gone home and they've seen older family members and they have concerns and they just want to make sure that they're safe. So the first one we talked about, what level of care does my loved one actually need? And we hit on things like what to look for when we're home visiting, what the different types of senior living look like, and who is appropriate for the different types. And there's also tons of links to full episodes on each type of senior living community in the show notes. And then also talked about how important it is to work with someone like myself who's a senior living advisor and can provide you with the guidance you need so you're not just sort of like Googling or kind of flying by the seat of your pants. So the second episode in this series, we talked about what your plan A, B, and C should look like. It's very important to be proactive and have a plan. And in this final episode of our 3-part series, we are going to talk about another question that comes up a lot is how on earth do I keep my loved ones safe during the winter months? So we just have to acknowledge that obviously winter is just one of the riskiest seasons. There's falls from ice or snow. And even here in Dallas, we get ice. Usually February is a awful month for us. So that does happen. But throughout the country, there's many areas where there's lots of snow and ice and people do fall. You fall if you're 20, but just imagine if you're 90. So it's definitely a concern. Illnesses, flu is rampant. There's so many things because we're indoors more. We're maybe with groups of people at the holidays, and maybe, your 5-year-old granddaughter had a cold. And I don't know about you, but, when my kids were little, I swear they would get something and it would be like a stomach bug. But just kind of a run-of-the-mill stomach bug. And then I would catch it and it would mutate into something like really horrible. Like one time I had to go to the emergency room and get an IV because I was so sick and dehydrated. And my daughter, I got it from her. She was like 1, had just like a regular little bug, and then it turned into this monstrosity in me. So those things happen. And if you're around, all the kids, which of course we want to be around the kids and family and everyone at the holidays, but who knows who has cooties and which cooties you're going to get. And the other risk is isolation because, again, we're talking, inclement weather, we're talking illness or fear of getting ill. Our seniors become very isolated. So let's just talk about some of these risks and what we can do to sort of mitigate them. So top winter safety risk. All right, we talked about a little bit about this already. Seasonal depression and isolation. I lived up in the Northeast for about 5 years. I lived in the Boston area. And that's a real thing, seasonal depression, because there are times when you get up in the morning, it's dark. You go to work. You get off work, 5 o'clock, it's dark. It's dreary, it's snowy. I found myself like really feeling, and I'm not one to get depressed, but I just did not feel happy. And so my husband and I started going, like in February, we'd go on a tropical vacation. I was like, we'd go to Hawaii or we'd go somewhere where the sun was shining. And being from the deep South as I am, I'm from Louisiana, it was very difficult for me because I'm used to seeing the sunshine. So it's definitely an issue. And of course, that leads into isolation. Falls from icy walkways, and then also falls from other things that we talk about all the time that are fall risk: clutter in the house, falling over a pet, throw rugs, all those things that we talk about. Other top winter safety risk: pneumonia, flu, RSV, obviously COVID, that's with us forever now. Our dementia family members, potential of wandering, God forbid if they wander out and it's, 10 below. That's, a major concern there. Medication mismanagement, and then power outages and extreme cold. And I'm going to use Texas as an example. We had the snowpocalypse or icepocalypse, whatever it was called, several years ago. And it was terrible because, there were power outages. It was a big fiasco. I just felt terrible for people. And I'll tell you, my husband, he had no fear of driving in the ice and the snow. And actually, there was a lady on Facebook who her mom had run almost out of her oxygen tank. And this lady was too scared to drive on the roads. She had an extra oxygen tank, or she found an extra oxygen tank, but she didn't have a way to get it to her mom. So my husband, who has always been very heroic, he drove in this horrible weather, got the oxygen tank, took it to this lady who lived in a senior apartment with outside staircase that was iced over, like on the third floor, and carried it up to her and got her hooked up so she had her oxygen. So, things like that are scary. So really plan for disaster. That was not something we expected in this area of Dallas, to have this frozen tundra that doesn't normally happen here. And we are not prepared for it, not prepared to clear roads, not prepared, obviously, to not lose power. It was crazy. So make plans for winter. Be proactive. You never know what could happen. So some immediate steps that you can take to ensure that people are safe during the winter months. So just sort of like home safety, sort of reset things. Clear walkways, as we've talked before, improve lighting, all those kind of things. Add the night lights, check on their medications, make sure things haven't expired. If you're expecting bad weather and maybe they don't want to drive, or they have given up driving, especially if there's inclement weather, you make sure someone has been proactive and checked to make sure that there's not a prescription that needs to be refilled. And I personally do this on a regular basis for my husband, who, if you listen to the podcast, he's a stroke survivor, but I check his medications all the time. If I see that maybe we're down to 1 week, I am calling it in and making sure that we have his medication, because I don't want to run out of anything. Health and wellness, doctor's appointments. Make sure that your loved ones have kept doctor's appointments. They've gotten their vaccines, flu, pneumonia. I think there's an RSV one now too, and COVID. If you're, I'm not going to get into that mess, but everyone's got their their thoughts on vaccines. But get whatever vaccinations are appropriate for you, and that's a personal discussion between you and your physician. Make sure that they're staying hydrated, that there are food is available, especially if you're expecting bad weather. Please check on your older loved ones, your elderly neighbors. Make sure they are okay. There's warm clothing, electric blankets. Make sure, though, that, they're used safely. A lot of our seniors have neuropathy. I just think we need to be very careful. I love electric blankets. I think they're great, but there are some safety concerns with that. So if someone has neuropathy and can't really feel how hot they have it set on, for example, my husband, we put a heating pad on his right shoulder a lot, but he has very little feeling because his right side is affected from a stroke. So I watch him, because sometimes he'll turn it up to a 5 and I'm like, oh no, you're going to burn yourself because you can't feel it. So I think it's really important that if we're using something like a heating pad or electric blanket, someone has neuropathy or, less feeling, that we are staying on top of that. social and emotional support, because loneliness it really skyrockets during this time of year for all the reasons I've just mentioned. People are sick or fear getting sick, or the weather's terrible. They don't want to go out in the cold. And maybe it's just cold and there's no snow and ice on the ground, but they just don't want to go out. So definitely we as the adult children need to create weekly check-in routines. And when I say as adult children, also our neighbors, we need to check on our neighbors too, our elderly neighbors. Maybe rotate visits among kids. And then emergency preparedness, so important. Create a winter emergency plan. And I know that sounds crazy, like in Dallas, Texas, I would never have thought we needed like a winter emergency plan, maybe a tornado plan, but not a winter emergency plan. But, I think it was 2019 when we had the great snowpocalypse. That can happen. It can happen here. And, we learned a lot that, our grids and all the things, the houses are not set up for that kind of weather. So make sure you have a plan, who you're going to call first, backup sources for heat, extra medications on hand, flashlights, batteries, chargers, all those kinds of things. If there's bad weather coming, I always charge my phone. Just make sure I have flashlights, I have all the things. Just make sure that you have your plan and you are set for inclement weather. If it becomes unsafe, if there is some really bad weather coming in and your mom is 92 years old living at home, I think families sort of need to maybe pivot at this point and go, okay, let's bring mom to one of our homes and not leave her by herself. So if things are getting too much and you are noticing signs that maybe mom or dad are not capable of being home alone by themselves with all these, extra things that the winter brings, then it may be time that we consider moving to senior living. So, and again, kind of go back to all the things that we talked about before, gently, have those conversations, introduce the options, as we have said, have a caregiver in the home if they want to stay home, assisted living, all those different types of things, which brings us back to always have that plan A, B, and C, and add to that our plan for a winter survival. So these are small steps you can do to prevent emergencies later. And I know you may not want to be thinking about them, but it's super important to do. And you're going to be thankful that you did it. So I think, everyone needs to create a winter safety checklist, have a plan A, B, and C for what's going to happen in the future, have those conversations with your family members. It's just so important to have a plan. I cannot stress that enough, because having worked in senior living over 20 years, most people have no plan and have not had a discussion with family members, and then we're just scrambling to figure out a solution. And I don't want that for anyone. So please go back. If you didn't listen to the first two, listen to all three of these. In the show notes are links to all other full-length podcasts that I think are very relevant for what we've talked about here. So go back and listen to those. If you want to talk to me or a member of my team and you're in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, please reach out to us. We can schedule a time to talk and do an assessment and figure out what's going on with your loved one and help you come up with a plan. So you can find us on our website, LoriWilliams-seniorservices.com. If you are out of state, I would advise you to find a senior living specialist, placement advisor, whatever it may be called. We can certainly send us a message and we can certainly see if we can help connect you with someone wherever you are. This is just not something that you can Google or rely on Facebook to get the quality answers that you need. And this is a free service, by the way. I think it's important to know what we do is a free service, as we are reimbursed by the senior living communities that we have contracts with. But it is a wonderful service, and we're able to provide this as a free service to families. So share all three of these episodes, these quick ones, with your friends and family. Let's be ready for conversations. If you are concerned after being home visiting loved ones, let's not ignore it. Let's not think, No, I didn't see that. No, that's just normal that mom is forgetting and telling me the same story 20 times in a row. That's not normal. And we can help you with that, okay? And get you resources. And, I think we all just want our family members to be safe and thriving and as independent as they possibly can be. All right. Thanks for listening and tune in next week. Bye-bye.